to understand that there are these two mighty fortresses working in the unseen world, spiritual spheres. And all of us are on one side or the other. We either are a companion to God or a companion to Satan. We are either those who take part with the holy angels in the enterprise of the advance of God's kingdom, or we are engaged with demons in the expansion of the power of Satan. You're either a saint or a sinner, and there's nothing in between. And to doubt this reality is the most momentous mistake that a person can ever make, the most fatal error that you can ever make, because it has eternal consequences, eternal results. You might sort of simplify it by saying, heaven is calling you through Jesus Christ and the gospel. At the same time, hell is calling you through Satan and his lies and deception. That's going on all the time. So it's overt in our society, but it's also beneath the surface in all the subtleties that Satan can manufacture. Now, the voices of hell have always been loud enough and alluring enough to charm and seduce the world of sinners who are born into the kingdom of darkness to start with, so that Satan flourishes in his kingdom, and all who follow him, all who are children of the devil, follow his direction, his lead. And so to one degree or another, every human being in this world is either a part of the kingdom of God and the ministry of holy angels on their behalf, or the kingdom of Satan and the ministry of demons on their behalf. That's existing even now. We don't wrestle against flesh and blood, Paul said, but against principalities and powers, the rulers of the darkness of this world, spiritual wickedness in the heavenlies. You have to understand the unseen world is real, and it is vast, and it is powerful. But again, we don't see it in our time. The outburst came in the ministry of Christ, and even after that in the ministry of the apostles. But since that time, Satan has been much more covert in his operations, although from time to time it's unmistakable to understand what he is doing. As bad as it is now, as powerful as Satan is, as effective and successful as he is, there is coming a time in the future that will be vastly beyond this era, even at its very worst. There is coming a time when virtually all of hell will come to earth. And there will come demons with inevitable, overwhelming, virtually irresistible power and seduction. They will successfully drown out all the preachers who are proclaiming the gospel and calling people to come to Christ and come to God and come to heaven. When this time comes, the people who are alive at this time will already have had plenty of warnings, powerful warnings, dramatic warnings, inescapable warnings from those who preach the gospel, the 144,000 Jews who are converted, as the book of Revelation tells us, from two witnesses described in chapter 11, from an angel flying in heaven who will proclaim the gospel across the face of the earth. There will be people converted and saved from every tongue and tribe and people and nation, as chapter 7 of Revelation says. So there will be a force of believers proclaiming the gospel. They will be martyred, many of them, not all of them. Some of them will come under the power of the Antichrist, and he will slay them, and they will be killed for the cause of Christ. But others will survive through that time in the future to enter into the kingdom of Christ when he returns. So the people who are alive at that time, and we're talking about a time the Bible calls the tribulation, a 7-year period in the future, the second half of which is called the Great Tribulation. Just to set it in your mind, the church will have been raptured. The church will be taken out of the world. We see that in the chronology of Revelation. The church is in the first 3 chapters on earth. The church is in chapter 4 and 5 in heaven. And then back on earth in chapter 6 through 19, all hell breaks loose in the final judgments that God unleashes on the world.